Hi guys and welcome back to the channel and welcome back to yet another The Summer Hikaru Died reaction video. I almost stumbled on my words just now, but I didn't. And we are going to be checking out episode number 3 today. This is of course the Monday upload. I will be doing uploads Mondays and Fridays for this series. Also that we will be uploading that final episode reaction on Halloween Day. That's the plan anyway. Last episode was really crazy. One thing I completely am very disappointed with myself for not catching or kind of understanding was the scene that I was questioning a lot, where I was talking about the grocery scene, and I thought it was maybe to do with his own personal anxieties and, you know, having someone talk to him so intently. But obviously the bigger intention of that scene was to showcase the way this town is, where nobody's secrets are secret. Everyone knows everything. Everything is just gossip within this town. And that makes everything that Yoshiki is experiencing all the more heartbreaking, especially when he is the only one that knows about Hikaru's, you know, situation and everything. So he's probably worried that someone's going to find out and that's going to be a big thing. But also, being someone who has romantic or at least feelings for someone of the same sex, he's probably worried that someone will find out and that will be a problem as well. So it's very tricky to navigate that whole kind of scenario, and that scene in the grocery shop did an absolutely phenomenal job of showcasing just how he feels. Absolutely incredible. And I'm just a little disappointed in myself that I didn't quite catch that myself, but thank you guys for explaining that one in the comments. And another thing, I might be getting the names wrong because I'm saying this without looking anything up because I don't want to spoil myself by looking up, but we have heard two different names for this entity. The one that presumably there is the trial, or not the trial, the I can't remember what it's called, but whatever it was that they were doing up at the mountains, we have heard this being referred to as Noniki-sama by just anyone else in the town, but we heard Hikaru's father call it Uniki. I don't know if there was like a prefix there, like sama or anything like that. So interesting that there is two different naming names for that thing. I did realize that during the edit that Uniki is not what we have heard it referred to as in the past. So I was wondering during the edit whether that was kind of something I should be paying attention to, or if it was simply maybe that Uniki was the being that we saw latching on to Yoshiki within the forest, but then again that other being was from the mountains, so it wouldn't make much sense. But yeah, I just wasn't too sure. But very interesting stuff. Wonder what's going to happen there. Wonder if we'll get more information and what we'll learn when we actually get that information, and little teases perhaps. But yeah, other than that, I did get a haircut, and I got a cut just yesterday, and it was by someone I've never had cut my hair before, and I actually hate it. I think it looks so bad. It's not like even at all anywhere. It's just an absolute mess. Maybe Yoshiki shouldn't get his hair cut because maybe that shit'll be cut into shit like mine was. But anyway, we're gonna check out this next episode, episode number 3. If you guys enjoy these videos, please leave a like and subscribe if you have not done so already, and comment down below letting me know your favorite summer food. Random, but just let me know. And yeah, share this with someone who you think might enjoy these reaction videos to The Summer Hikaru Died, and hit that notification bell if you want to be notified when videos like this will go live. Also, ending video coming soon, I promise. But yeah, we're gonna just check this one out. The Summer Hikaru Died, episode 3. Let's go. Also, I just wanted to say before we start this episode, I hope you guys enjoyed the entirety of the first season of The Summer Hikaru Died. I have heard that a season 2 has been announced. So yeah, season 1 is wrapped up now, which feels crazy considering I'm only about to start episode number 3 right now. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope that you guys are excited for season 2. And yeah, here we go. Episode number 3. Sunflowers. Oh, they're kids. Look at them. Oh, that's a huge bit of melon. He was always so carefree. Oh no, he swallowed a seed. It's gonna grow in his belly. I'm sure he did. Oh no. Oh, he immediately started crying. Two poor children. Oh. That's so cute. Back to the sunflowers. Episode 3, Denial. Oh, we get to see a sunflower, a watermelon now that they're grown, they're older. Is Hikaru here with an accent on the Hikaru? He's such a sweetie pie, isn't he? Yoshiki. Is it that hot? I bet it is. Oh no, not the stomach again. Yeah, he feels guilty, or he does. Yeah, there's just feelings about looking. For that video game, which video game is that? Yoshiki is the main character. What are you talking about? Just don't swallow the seeds. Psh, don't tell me you still eat it like you did when you were a child. Aww. You're telling him all these things he knows because he knows the real Hikaru. You don't need to act like you know. Fake Hikaru. Fikaru. I'm gonna call him Fikaru. Oh shit. That was impressive. Oh no. It's probably a really dear memory that he has. Smash? Yeah, the way that changed, where he was so genuinely upset and there was like real emotion there. Whereas this time, like, I don't know if maybe it was a... Ooh. Ooh, everything just wilted away. Holy shit, that was terrifying. That almost makes it look widescreen right there. That's really cool. Yeah. Exactly, Yoshiki. You can't keep acting. It's not right. It's not the same. Oh, you should have just told him from the start. That's so sad. Because now if you tell him, it's not really him, is it? He died. Shit. They sacrificed one of their family members, is that it? Shit, the Indo family sacrifices one of their family members? Maybe? Really? I would have just thought with the school and everything. Yeah. Everything's catching up to him all at once. Ah, it's the girl. Can she be trusted though? Can we trust her? Is he gonna get an immediate response? Oh, don't leave your phone there. That's not good. That's not good at all. Oh, Hikaru. That's... This series does a great job of really making you understand just how hot this place is. The thunder rolling in all of a sudden. The switch up from before and after he told someone. He's been trying so hard. This poor kid. You can only do your best, Yoshiki. What do you need to face? Oh shit. Who did you lose? Oh, not the tease. You gotta tell us more. Nah, you're hiding something, whatever that is. I'd assumed it was a girl. She is realizing. Ooh. It only happens to those that are really close. Impurities. He's going to start to notice things now, isn't he? Yep, the long-necked lady. The replacement. Mass of something, yeah, that's exactly what it looks like. Just makes the shape of a person. Whatever this thing is that they do in the mountain, it's about keeping whatever this is there. And now it's got out, and is that where the ring used to be right there? That raw looking skin? He was already dead and he came home? Shit. A wound that would never heal, like an emotional scar? I love these perspective shots that they do for Yoshiki. It really puts you in the character's mind. How could he move on? Wow. Read the room, lady. This Rie character, she's gonna be someone that we'll have to keep an eye on. In the room by himself. He doesn't want to be disturbed. He wants to be alone, class 2A. Damn. That's crazy. Aww. What must that be doing to him? Yep, exactly. It's now within your best friend. Yep, all of these things are related. Jeez. See, that's the thing. He can never have these introspective moments, these moments where he's just dealing with everything because something always interrupts. And a lot of the time it is Hikaru himself. Or Hikaru. There it is. It's not the time. Last episode you said you wanted to keep him in your life so that nothing else could get him. Is he hiding something? Oh shit. Oh. Oh. That's what this is about. Good enough? Oh my god, look at that. The thread snapped. And there it is. He's not gonna do anything. I don't think he will, but I need you.
Jeez.
My first? Jeez. Oh. Jeez. That's awful. Is he losing control right now? Like, what is happening? They're becoming one. They're mixing. Is this it? Feels good. You're becoming one with Hikaru. Is that it? What was it? Aww. Bro, this is such a tragic story, seriously. The framing here as well, like that, like pole acting as the line between them the whole time too, until it wasn't anymore. This is gonna be a really heavy one to analyze. You broke it off. Oh, that 3D looks crazy. He should have just gone home. Lately. Oh, it's really tricky trying to navigate this whole thing. Treating them differently is really hard to do, and he's going straight to him while the ending plays in the background. It's so dramatic looking. Oh, he's such a... He really is like a child. Quite the opposite. Oh. That's very close. That's all he wanted, and now it's like... Oh. This ain't good, is right. You're getting very close. Oh, I don't know how to feel. This is really complicated. You gotta tell him? Oh, okay, teach him a few things, absolutely. And the sunflowers are dying once again. Summer is dead. This is going to be a really, really heavy one to talk about. Just real quick, I want to point out, it feels like something's flown into my eye or something's in my eye. So if you see me rubbing it or if it looks really red, that's why. I do apologize. But yeah, that was episode number 3 of The Summer Hikaru Died. And that was very, very, very intense. It's been no stranger to intensity so far throughout the series, but this one definitely This one was a lot. Every single scene within this episode was packed full of like symbolism and deeper meaning in terms of the relationship between Hikaru and Yoshiki. And interestingly enough as well, this episode had none of the company man or anything else like that. This was fully Yoshiki's episode. I think the only time we really see anyone other than Yoshiki this episode, I could be wrong, I'll have to go through the episode, but the only time I think we see someone that isn't in a scene in like the same room as Yoshiki is when Hikaru is looking at his phone, perhaps. And even then, Yoshiki is just in the next room, so he's still there, but not within that, literal same room scene. So yeah, this episode was very, very Yoshiki heavy, very Yoshiki focused. And I love that so much because being our main character, we need to be able to understand his way of thinking, understand what he's feeling, and empathize with him. And trust me, I have been feeling so sorry for this poor child, this poor guy, since episode 1, since the very beginning. But an episode like this definitely helps to pile on the layers and just make everything more, make everything bigger. Like I feel like I've got a much better grasp of his character after this episode, even though I felt like I understood him prior to this episode definitely gives you a much deeper feeling, deeper sense of understanding of Yoshiki as a character, and indeed of Hikaru as well. So the episode begins with a really wonderful memory that Yoshiki has of Hikaru, and this memory ends up being relevant for the episode itself because in this memory that they have, I guess they just came home from school perhaps, or like some sort of summer school, because they're both wearing very similar clothing, the exact same clothing. They are eating watermelon, and Hikaru, being Hikaru, even from a young age, is very watch this, like he's got that kind of attitude, that kind of personality where he's kind of like a show off, or not that he's a show off, but he likes to be the goofy one. He likes to make his friends smile, and he's very aloof, and he doesn't necessarily think before doing what it is that he does. And a really cool thing that they do for this scene is that they give it a 4:3 look, which instantly dates this scene right here. Like, if it wasn't obvious enough seeing children version of these characters, the boxed 4:3 look gives it away that this is in the past, this is a vintage era, this is a long time ago. It was a great job, it was a great decision to do this. I can't remember the last time I watched anything in 4:3. I was watching early Naruto, or like a bit ago, like a good while ago now at this point, like over a year ago, year and a half, something like that. Probably not as long as that, but yeah, I watched the first 50 or so episodes and it was in 4:3. So yeah, it's not very often I would watch anything like this, and I think it was really cool. I loved it so much. But speaking of watermelon, very random, but I was mentioning or talking about in the last episode, horror films and stuff, and my wife and I, kind of on a whim, over the weekend, I was making dinner and she was trying to come up with what movie we were going to watch. And so she settled on 3 different movies. And keep in mind, we've been watching a lot of horror films lately. So I was kind of like, under the impression she was going to choose a horror film. But she came up with 3, one of which I wouldn't call horror at all. So the 3 that she came up with were, I'll say the one that isn't horror first, Beau is Afraid. Which, directed by Ari Aster. I don't think I would really call that a horror film. It feels more comedic than anything, honestly. And then there was Salem's Lot, which came out I think last year. It's like a remake of a film or something, I don't know, but obviously Stephen King. And House, 1977, I believe, a Japanese horror film. And I say horror, it's not very horror, but it definitely has horror elements. It's much more comedic in its horror, but it is probably still classified under the horror umbrella. And if you've seen that film, you will know that the watermelon is minor but important feature within that film, especially in the early stages of the film. So yeah, I just thought that this was very funny, just going to this and then seeing a watermelon, and it's what it immediately reminded me of. So this scene does a great job of showing just the way these two characters have always been with one another. You know, they haven't really changed, and granted they have a lot. You know, Hikaru has changed and Yoshiki is very different now from what he might have been a year ago when Hikaru was running around still. But this scene definitely shows the characterizations and the way they are with one another and the way they've probably had always been with one another. And Hikaru, the absolute goofball that he is just eating this thing like crazy, saying he's going to do a comic book style and everything, and then he swallows a seed and he starts to worry, he starts to panic, and he starts to feel very sad. And he says that his father told him that his old friend swallowed a watermelon seed and turned into a striped watermelon man. And so Hikaru thinks that's going to happen to him, and he starts to panic. And that's when Yoshiki immediately tears up as soon as Hikaru says that he's going to turn into a watermelon man. And I thought that this was Yoshiki feeling sad about the idea and prospect of losing his friend, but in reality it's because he also swallowed one. So it feels like these two are very in sync. They do the same things, they experience the same things. You know, they're just, you can't get one without the other, it feels like. You know, like that's how this comes across anyway with this scene. And all the while Hikaru's father is watching this and finding humor in the fact that these two kids are doing what they're doing. And it's very sweet just seeing these two kids just like crying together, you know. Like, I know it's not sweet, but it just, you know, you can see that they're okay with being vulnerable in front of each other, if that makes sense. Like, they are so close that they aren't scared to show that vulnerable side to one another. But that's when, of course, Hikaru's father does go in and comfort both boys and tell them that they're going to be fine. But that whole scene with the watermelon reminded me of that. Like, I don't know what it is, but it's something that I used to see on Twitter every maybe 6 months or something, where someone would repost it and I would just have to watch because of the bizarre nature of it, where, you know, it's literally like a little cartoon of a kid swallowing a watermelon seed, and then, you know, the roots start to sprout out of his like nose. He starts to eventually transition into a watermelon, and then that's kind of the whole short animated film. If you know, you know, but that's what this whole thing was reminding me of anyway. So then the relevancy of this watermelon scene begins to become clear when we see Yoshiki, after the opening plays, of course, walking to, like, just in a, like, we don't know where he's going, but he's walking with a watermelon in a bag, and one can only assume he's bringing it to Hikaru because we saw them sharing a watermelon when they were children. So, you know, it just, the mind fills in the blanks, right? And we see that he's hesitating once again to text Rie Kabayashi, I can't remember her surname, but she's the one that exchanged phone numbers with Yoshiki in the previous episode, who, you know, can sense these things and everything. So she is someone who wants to get closer to Yoshiki, and Yoshiki is kind of scared to reach out. When Yoshiki gets to Hikaru's house, he's greeted by the real Hikaru's mother, not this fake Hikaru's mother. It's just really strange to think that his own mother didn't even recognize any changes, but Yoshiki did. That just goes to show how much he knew him and how much he recognized every single little aspect of his character and the way he was and the way he is and everything like that. Yoshiki asks, is Hikaru here? Like, there's an, I don't know if it's just subtitles that I was using here within this episode, but there is an emphasis on Hikaru where it's italicized, I think it's the right way to say it, I could be wrong, which indicates that Yoshiki put a twist on a turn and like an emphasis on the way he said that, which obviously, you know, it's not the real Hikaru, so it's Hikaru. Like, you know, like I don't know how he said it because I don't speak the Japanese language, so I can't necessarily detect like a change in the way he said it, but there must have been something there to indicate that even at this stage in the episode, he is very clearly aware that this is not the real Hikaru, but he's not ready to talk about it. He's not ready to explain that. He's not really able to go beyond this. And so that's it. He just leaves the watermelon with the mother. And then he heads on in to meet Hikaru, who is sleeping on the floor with his stomach showing a little, which kind of reminds us of the previous episode where Hikaru was, shirtless and Yoshiki was sticking his hand inside him. And then the section a little later when the big gap or hole in the stomach seemingly closes over, so, which would indicate that Hikaru can do that at will. So it closes over and it just looks like a normal stomach. And Yoshiki, it's almost like this ashamed feeling or guilt or whatever that he cannot look at it, or that he is unsure of what he should do, because this is someone that he once called his best friend and now it's someone else. And so seeing that transition from not real to real looking, it's probably very confusing, as well as the confusing thoughts that maybe he has within his own mind. So he kind of pulls his cap over his eyes and looks away, this almost ashamed feeling that he has related to maybe what he was seeing, what he was thinking. And he just sits down at the table and just looks dead ahead. Like, he does not look around. He just looks so dead and he looks so lifeless, which is really interesting because I hadn't thought about it until I just said the word lifeless. Hikaru is the one who is really dead, but it's Yoshiki who comes across as lifeless a lot of the times, where he's the one who seems more dead than Hikaru. So yeah, it's just a really interesting dynamic that one has life, a true real life, and the other doesn't, but one comes across a certain way where the other doesn't. So yeah, very, very interesting to think. Hikaru teases Yoshiki for looking at him and not waking him up, and then says that he's acting like the main character from that old video game. I have no idea which game he's talking about here, if it's a real game at all. Please let me know, because yeah, that's a very random line of dialogue to throw out there. Yoshiki gets kicked and he's still just staring dead ahead, but Hikaru then jumps on him, tackles him, and leaves him on the ground. And that's when we see Hikaru basically being like, oh, you got a watermelon, I can eat it, like blah blah blah, repeating the things that he said when he was a child. And Yoshiki's just staring at the floor saying, I know, I know, I know that too, I know. So yeah, it's very much giving the sense that he knows this character so well. He knows that he can do all these things. He doesn't need to be told all these things. But this fake Karu, it almost seems like he's on a script where he needs to convince people. So he's just repeating the best hits, the best like all the greatest hits rather that Hikaru maybe once said during his life, once felt, and things that he can do. Whereas for Yoshiki, it's like, I don't need you to tell me, I already know, I've seen it. Hikaru eats the watermelon super fast, very impressive, honestly, the way he did this. But within this scene, we see distancing between the two characters, this big ass table between them separating the two characters, and it's a very visible gap here, very obvious gaps that separates them. And behind them is the same beautiful backdrop. But something very interesting, I'll throw up a screenshot. I'm actually going to take a screenshot right now because I'm looking at it. We can see in the background, you can see the beauty of life with the tree and everything on the left side, the Yoshiki side of the screen, whereas on the right side, Hikaru's, you see just the mountain. The mountain being, a very, very essential part of this character. Whatever happened in that mountain, it's very important, very relevant to the character and to Noniki or Uniki sama, whatever it is. And yeah, the whole aspect of the ritual, I finally remember the word ritual. I could not remember the word. I'll talk about what I think that might be a little later, but yeah, this ritual is very much tied to this family. And we even see here on the Hikaru side of the screen, the mountain. So beauty and life on the left side with the tree with Yoshiki, but he's the one looking down. And then on the right side, we see Hikaru looking up. So it's like a mirrored image. They're completely opposite. And there's no beautiful life growing on the right side. It's just the mountain. But within the scene, we see Hikaru saying the whole, oh, I swallowed a seed, I'm going to become a watermelon man. And this makes Yoshiki very upset and he looks away. A big part of why I think that might be is because a part of that scene when they were children, it was a scene that they shared together where they were both sad, they were both experiencing these same things, they were both experiencing emotions, whereas here we see Hikaru just acting all aloof and happy and, you know, making light of a very key moment in Yoshiki's life that he remembers very fondly. But also within that scene, he said that he would turn into a watermelon man and that he would die. And what has happened since to Hikaru, the real Hikaru? He has died and been taken over by something else. So this is probably what Yoshiki is thinking when this all happens within this scene. So needless to say, he does not find the humor in it. He does not find it funny whatsoever. He just finds it very sad. We get to see Yoshiki kind of recall those memories from when he was a child and just realize the difference in the two scenes, the two different ways that that played out with the whole I'm going to turn into a watermelon man. Like, they're vastly different, and it's just going to further prove how different these two Hikarus are from one another. But after that, then we do see Hikaru lie down as though he's going to go to sleep, and you know, you can see Hikaru's mother on the phone in another room, and Yoshiki's just sitting there staring down, and you know, he's kind of having these feelings of, I can't keep doing this anymore, I can't keep acting like nothing has changed. He thinks that a little later on, but within the scene we start to see the way everything changes so suddenly, and I think that that's a great thing that the series does, where, you know, we're just getting to see very standard normal shots where it's focusing on individual items or single points of interest within these frames. You know, it's showing like a glass decoration thing which you know, has a wind chime type deal to it. It's focusing on this a lot, and then suddenly it's showing the sunflowers once again. The sunflowers obviously represent growth, representing reaching up towards something, that being the sun. They only grow during the summer, obviously. Well, they don't, but they're known for growing during the summer, and they take a lot of nurturing, and you know, you have to take care of them basically for them to grow in the first place. They need the right conditions and everything, and we start to see them suddenly get destroyed. They are looking burnt, they're looking dead, and I guess these sunflowers are meant to symbolize how Yoshiki feels about Hikaru, where this Hikaru is no longer, you know, reaching for anything, like growing towards anything. He's just stuck, and he's kind of just like, he's dead now, and that's maybe what that symbolizes. There might be more to it that I'm not aware of, but that's how I'm interpreting that anyway. And of course he recalls the moment where he did question whether that was the real Hikaru or not, and Hikaru revealed everything to him. So that scene just plays in his head, and this goes to show that. And right as Yoshiki's having these doubts about, you know, not being able to continue acting like nothing has changed and keep acting like this is normal, he just can't keep doing that anymore. Hikaru suddenly whips around and says, you know what, I'm glad that we're still friends, I'm glad that we're still able, you know, like all this stuff. He likes still hanging out, he likes that they're still having fun and everything. And this is as Yoshiki is going through a severe crisis in his own mind. He immediately has to ask, where did that come from? Like, why, what makes you say that? And Hikaru says he just wanted to make him know how he felt. And this is more proof that this is a different Hikaru, because Yoshiki said in episode 1, Hikaru never once said how he felt about him. And now here we are again, another episode where he is sharing how he feels. So this is very clearly not his Hikaru. This is a completely different Hikaru. And of course, these feelings of how he feels, they're being shared at a very critical moment for Yoshiki, where these words are kind of what he needs to hear, but at the same time they're kind of not what he needs to hear, because they're proving a point to him. So it's also confusing for him, and he can't help but just not show how he feels on his face. Like, Yoshiki is just broken, he's going through so much, he's experiencing so much, he's feeling so much. But it's once Hikaru says that he just wanted to share how he feels, that's when Yoshiki says, I should have done the same thing. And what could that mean? That, to me, is him admitting the feelings that he has for Hikaru, and that he's known about them. He's known how he feels. He just was too scared to say it. Whereas I was kind of under the thought that maybe Yoshiki had these feelings, but he didn't understand them. He didn't understand why he felt that way. I didn't realize that at this point, he seemingly knows. He fully understands himself, how he feels about Hikaru, and he's just upset and beating himself up at the fact that he never shared those feelings. He never shared those thoughts. He never shared how he feels to Hikaru himself, and now he's got regrets. And then we get a little tease for the ritual which goes down in the Indo family, and we're told that around the time that a picture that Yoshiki is looking at was taken, Hikaru's father died, and this death happened on the mountain around the same time Hikaru went to the mountain. In my mind, like, great, that's great English, great job. In my head, my mind immediately goes to the fact that this ritual requires a sacrifice of someone, and the men are sacrificing themselves in order to keep this being trapped here. And obviously, we saw that Hikaru went to the mountain as well, and the villagers are talking, or the townspeople are talking about the fact that the ritual failed because Hikaru went missing, and they're calling him the Indo Sun. So obviously it's a note of importance here that the Indo family partakes in this, and everyone knows it because it's the Indo family. And he's not referred to by name, but just the Indo Sun. So whatever it is that they do, they must keep the townspeople safe, the town safe, by sacrificing themselves. I wonder if that's kind of related to what, like, it's just confusing because the whole point is that they are supposed to be exempt from Unuki-sama coming and taking them away, coming and doing whatever it is that it does. But at the same time, the fact that both of them died on the mountain, it almost seems like Unuki, maybe I get it now. Like, so the whole thing is that, oh wait, no, but I'm so confused. I actually don't have answers. I was thinking something along the lines of maybe that the men sacrifice themselves so that the people that they love can live lives, and the townspeople and everything, and maybe that's why they rush to get married and everything so that they can have children of their own, so that they can do the ritual as well. And it's just this never ending cycle. But I wonder if that cycle is over now because Hikaru died and he didn't have any children. I don't know if there are any other Indos within that whole family that can partake in the ritual or anything in the future if anything was to happen. But anyway, they go to the mountain, they bring this shrunken head, and that's supposed to help cleanse the area. But something very interesting that we saw much later in the episode was Hikaru, a child Hikaru, carrying a head. And in my mind, I'm thinking, is that his father's head? Was his father's head the one that was shrunken down? And that was my thought in the previous episode. I suspected that maybe that was his father's head. And so whatever it is, the Indo head, whatever it is, they're sacrificed and their heads are shrunk really small, and they help to protect the town for a while, for a finite amount of time, and then it has to be redone over and over and over again. But maybe there's more to it. There surely is more to it that we don't know of just yet, but I hope that we will learn those answers hopefully soon. And then, we follow that scene up with Hikaru dead asleep. Yoshiki finally sends Rie a message saying hi, and then he's called into the next room by Hikaru's mother and given a gift to bring back to his home as thanks for bringing the watermelon here. And that's when Hikaru wakes up to the sound of Yoshiki's phone vibrating and looks at it and sees a message from Rie Kobayashi. And yeah, he simply wonders, who is that? I wonder who that is. And you don't really get the sense that he's super jealous or anything from this scene, but that becomes apparent later on. Even the heat in this world, this series, adds a lot of intensity to what these characters are experiencing, especially with Yoshiki. He's already going through a lot, and so this intense sun just makes everything just more intense. Like, I know I've said intense like 5 times in 5 seconds, but it really does add a lot to these moments, especially seeing how everyone's sweating and everyone's uncomfortable. There's a lot of discomfort, and this, makes everything feel more discomforting and uncomfortable as we're experiencing it with these characters. Rie shows up and it's like, hey, why don't we go to a diner for something to eat? And she's looking like a sweet little old woman, not old, but like middle aged or maybe younger. And something really, really interesting that my friend Pincino pointed out, and I just kind of want to share it too, is that the scene where she approaches Yoshiki in episode 2 reminded him a lot of a scene from Hereditary. Funnily enough, I say funnily enough because I was talking about Hereditary in the previous episode, and now I can't shake that thought from my mind. It's made me see her in a completely different light, where she seems very trusting. You can trust her here. I'm not saying that he told me that she can't be trusted. That's not the case whatsoever. It's just, seeing that comparison, like the scenes, the way that both scenes play out in episode 2 makes me think, damn, like she was very eager to reach out to him and to start this dialogue with him, which makes me worried that she cannot be trusted at all, and that she's got deeper goals in mind here and she's really trying to do something. So I will be keeping my eye out for Rie here going forward. But something she does share a little later on as well is that she can relate to Yoshiki, which we have never heard before. Nobody is related to Yoshiki because she's also lost a loved one. And something I think is really interesting as well is that she is the first person to realize that Yoshiki might have deeper feelings than just friendship for Hikaru. And that is kind of insinuated when she says, I would have thought it would be a girl considering the fact that you're almost mixed and everything. But that's interesting. She doesn't call him out, she doesn't question him, but she knows. And I love for Yoshiki that he has a character now who understands him and everything he's experiencing and going through. Someone knows about how he feels, the fact that he is a closeted young male in this world, and the fact that he finally was able to tell someone else about Hikaru, someone else learned about Hikaru, and that's something that he's wanted because he has not been able to do all this by himself. He has been very much struggling to withhold all of this and keep it to himself and be the only person that knows and struggle and grieve silently alone. And now someone who doesn't know them knows about them, and he's able to talk to her about this, and I'm sure it was a huge relief and a huge weight lifted off his shoulders to have someone who didn't think he was crazy and that understood him exactly. I think one of the most interesting things though about the scene is that prior to them entering this diner, everything was great. It looked so nice outside. Everything was super hot. She even made a comment, Rie, about it being scorching hot outside and everything. But as soon as she asks him to tell her everything that happened, we see a transition to the window where we see stormy weather outside. And that's... could it be more obvious, right? There's a storm brewing, and yeah, I don't think I need to explain this one. It's very obvious. But yeah, I think that that's really interesting. We have seen shadows being cast anytime certain things are happening in relation to the town with regards to Hikaru, and now we get to see a literal storm being cast over the town as someone learns about Hikaru. She thanks him for telling her, and she says, you tried really hard, which makes Yoshiki start to cry and asks, like, what's making you say that? But everyone needs that validation. He has been going through so much and nobody has seen that, nobody has understood that. And so to have someone who will validate your feelings and basically tell you you've done a great job of holding it together, I think that that's exactly what he needed, and I completely understand where she's coming from. But at the same time, Yoshiki has very clearly been someone who doesn't know how to interpret like spontaneity from characters. Like we saw it earlier with Hikaru suddenly turning around and saying, everything that he said about how he's glad they can still hang out and everything, and now she's spontaneously saying that he's done a great job. So he's very clearly a character who is used to a certain way of life, and so when something interrupts that, something out of the ordinary happens like it has with Hikaru, it almost flips him inside out, and it makes him so confused, and he's like, what's happening? Like he can't deal with spontaneity. It's how I'm kind of learning about him here. And she says we need to keep moving forward and not keep thinking about the past and those that we've lost, because she's starting to share that she has experienced something similar, though she doesn't go into depth with it, other than the fact that her late husband came back once and permanently scarred a wound, or left a wound that wouldn't heal in her child, I think she said. And I don't know how to interpret this, if this is indicating that her dead husband returned from the dead, killed their I say almost said son, but I don't know if it's son or not, killed their child and then went back to being dead, or if her not so dead husband, returned and he's now dead in present time, came back from being away and emotionally scarred their child, and so that's the wound that will not heal. And that's when she calls him out on the whole mixing thing and realizes that there must be something going on there between the two, more than just friendship. And when she says this, Yoshiki is staring at her, wide-eyed, mouth open, kind of just like shocked, like worry and shock, and just like he's watching her closely to see what her next move will be, because nobody has ever learned this side of him before. And so now that she has been the first to learn, he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know how she'll take it. He doesn't know how to navigate this. And so he's just watching her closely, and she doesn't acknowledge it again. She just kind of moves on, because the orders arrive and they have big ass parfaits. And so she shares, or she asks if he's noticed anything weird, and Yoshiki says no. Well, he doesn't actually answer, but she is starting to talk about how like all these weird occurrences, they're all related to the fact that Hikaru went into the mountain and this thing that was in the mountain is no longer there, so it must be within Hikaru. And she's saying that his friend is the one that's causing all of these weird things to happen. We see a shot from Yoshiki's perspective once again this episode. It's the first of this episode. There were several in the previous episode where he is looking at Rie, but he cannot see her eyes. A lot of the vision is obscured by his hair here, and it's making her seem almost ominous in what she says here, where she says, you can't stay together like this, you know that. Masking her eyes here makes her seem more, I don't know if the word is malignant, where it almost seems like she's got different intentions here. And, he looks down and everything once again. We saw that last episode too, where he would look down and we would see these perspective shots. And the way that we're seeing these shots right here as well adds a really weird field of view kind of a way for us to see this, where we see everything as wider and further away than they are when we're seeing it just through a camera. So it definitely adds a sense of ambiguity almost, and confusion, and just like makes things feel not right. Seeing things in this way where everything looks, the field of view has changed. It's not normal. It's not what we're used to. And this is what Yoshiki is seeing. He's seeing things in a different way almost. And she shares that she doesn't want Yoshiki to end up like him. And that's almost how the scene ends. It ends actually more in a really just juxtaposed kind of way. Like, I don't know how to say that in a better way, but, this is a very confusing and sad time for Yoshiki. And that's then when the parfait appears and it's sparkling. It looks beautiful. It's got all these colors in it. But that's juxtaposed by Yoshiki's emotions and Yoshiki's like how he's feeling and the way he's holding himself and the way he's looking, just deadpan, straight ahead, everything like that. We see Yoshiki at school and Hikaru looking for him, and Yoshiki very clearly does not want to be found. He's not exactly hiding, but he's hiding anyway, and Hikaru is looking around everywhere for him, very Lost Puppy-esque, and he asks the two girls where Yoshiki is, and they're kind of just like, oh, we don't know, we haven't seen him. So one of the girls goes and looks for him and finds him and says that Hikaru's looking for him, and Yoshiki just says, tell Hikaru to go home by himself. And he just continues to look out the window towards this mountain, almost, it would look like. And then this is when Yoshiki has a lot of time to think to himself. He's staring down and he's realizing that Hikaru basically admitted he would kill him in an instant. Like, he would kill him if needs be. And it wouldn't even be hard for him. He just didn't want to. He's realizing that all these drops in a pond are all related. That not every single instance that he's thinking about here, with the old lady's death, Hikaru going missing on the mountain, all of these things are all related, but he just doesn't understand how. He can't link them all together, but he knows they're related due to his conversation with Rie. And then we get one of the most intense moments in the whole episode. Once again, it's reminding me of, I think, episode 1, when they're approaching like a stop sign, and we start to see like very similar imagery and kind of switch up in animation style and everything like this. But he's screaming, move on, move on, move on, move on, move on from this, move on from this, move on, move on from this. And yeah, it's very intense, and the animation style switches up entirely. We no longer see clear images. It's just like these stripes, these lines, everything is very distorted, and we see Yoshiki stripped away of everything. He's just like an outer lining, and he's not like, it's making me feel like he's not a real person. This is just a shell, and once you strip everything away, you see the real him that is just a scared, lonely child, and it's not much to look at. There's just an outer layer. Like, it really makes me feel for the guy. And that's of course when Hikaru interrupts this moment that he's having. So it's definitely playing on the idea that he can't even have these moments to himself where he's realizing things, because Hikaru interrupts him and inserts himself into these situations. So Yoshiki does not have time to think. He doesn't have time to get over anything or realize anything by himself. Hikaru says, let's go home, and we see him step beyond the line. He steps past it to get to Yoshiki here, where there's a very clear line separating them with a brush or a broom or a mop or whatever it is in the background behind Yoshiki's table, next to a locker. But Hikaru crosses beyond that, and he's crossed the line here, which, very metaphoric, and it says a lot, because it basically explains how Yoshiki's feeling, where Hikaru has crossed many lines. Hikaru doesn't understand why Yoshiki is shoving him aside and pushing him off, brushing him off, and why he seems to be very upset. And Hikaru starts to question, is it me? Have I upset you? Are you sad? Can I cheer you up? And he pulls a face, but nothing is working. And he's so confused, this Hikaru. He doesn't understand what's happening. He can't understand why Yoshiki would just all of a sudden switch up on him. And so they have basically an argument. They start to like not scream, but like have raised voices when they're having a heated discussion with one another about what the problem is. And once again, he crosses the line by putting his hand on Yoshiki's shoulder, and Yoshiki immediately brushes it off. He does not want any part of that, even though we know he does crave that companionship and like this closeness with Hikaru, the real Hikaru. He does not want this right now. This is not the moment or time for anything like that. The scene continues with Hikaru asking him if he's pissed off and everything, and yeah, like he's just asking a million questions, and Yoshiki even points it out. And then we get a shot of Hikaru standing a little further back, where we see he's going back before the line. He's going back on the other side of this line that separates them. It's almost like he's transitioning back. He doesn't know his place, and he's kind of like unsure of what to do here, and so he's stepping back, and he's once again creating this space between them. He starts to interrogate Yoshiki about whoever he was texting, who he was meeting up with, and all of this, showing a jealous side that we had not seen before of this Hikaru. Yoshiki's just simply saying, I don't have to tell you, like that's none of your business. You shouldn't have been looking at his phone in the first place to see that message. Hikaru starts to point out that they used to tell each other everything, and now they don't. And why is that? Yoshiki's like, it's not like it was you that I was telling everything to, is it? And that's when Hikaru realizes that's the problem. The fact that I'm not the real Hikaru. The real Hikaru is gone, and I'm what's left. And then we get this shot of Hikaru without the red eyes, so it looks like the real Hikaru that is staring at Yoshiki here. where he looks very dumbfounded and he looks very almost innocent and not the evil, creepy being that we have thought that this version might be. He just looks like a normal guy here. We see the animation style change yet again, where it looks almost like a chalk drawing outline of Hikaru suddenly morphs into this bigger being, this mess, this just there nothing is making a shape here. It's just a big shape of scribbles, which might explain what's inside Hikaru now. Like, it's not real, it's just this other thing, like all these things, just everything coming together. And then, we do see Hikaru kind of flash once again in this chalk style, where it's giving the sense that, we saw him and then we saw this mess and then we see him again. So it's kind of telling you that you can't trust what you're seeing with this Hikaru, because it'll start with the original, something will take over, and then you'll see another image of Hikaru, but it's different, it's not the same. So then a chalk hand reaches out, and that's kind of when a lot of things start to go wrong. He starts asking, am I not good enough for you? Yoshiki shares that he wishes that they could have all these times again. He had a great time. He knows the way he speaks. And like basically saying that this fake Hikaru is trying too hard, being the real Hikaru too much, because it's saying all the things he would say, it's doing all the things he would do, it's acting like he would, and it's really upsetting him because that's not the real Hikaru, it's a fake Hikaru. And so he's just so confused, he doesn't understand what to do here. And all the while this is happening, we see this really fuzzy, otherworldly being of a figure standing holding Yoshiki's arm very tightly, and it doesn't look real, it doesn't look human, and it kind of is emitting this reddish black hue around it, which makes it look very angry, makes it look very intense, and makes it look evil and not good, like something bad is going to happen here. And that's when the thread snaps. And once the thread snaps, Hikaru says, you're right, but he also says sorry. So there's some respect there. And that's when he lights up one of his eyes, it starts to glow, and he's just gripping really tightly. He tightens his grip around Yoshiki's wrist, so much so that by the end of this episode we see that this is a permanent mark around his wrist. It's bruised, it's marked, and it's left some damage to Yoshiki's arm. A change in perspective happens where I can't remember what this is called, but like the zoom kind of changes, and it makes it look like everything's coming rushing towards us, and it really gets us into the eyes of Yoshiki when we see him, because everything is just kind of moving into place here, and it adds a lot to the scene, and it's a great camera technique, and I'm so glad to see this within animation. And so Hikaru starts to say, you were my first, and doesn't finish the sentence. So it makes you think, was he going to say love? Was he going to say friend? Probably friend, which makes it all the more sad. But also, if it would have been love, is this just the fake Haru that feels that way? Because that's a whole thing in itself following this moment right here, but I'll talk about that when it happens. But anyway, Yoshiki is being consumed essentially by this maglum. I'm not even going to try to say that, but it's like this huge amalgamation, that's the word, of cells. It looks like it's a mess, and it pins him down, and it starts to work its way into Yoshiki's being, and he starts to even think to himself, this feels really good, this feels great, and this idea of Hikaru being inside him and them being one with one another is how this made me feel. But I just feel really bad for Yoshiki that he doesn't really truly understand what's happening here. Like, this is not good, this mixing is not good. I wonder if some of this mixing has kind of twisted or altered him in any kind of way, or if he is still the same Yoshiki without any of the changes, because this mixing, it literally went inside him. So that's why I'm wondering if there's any change in Yoshiki now going forward. And we start to see that Hikaru is thinking all these things that Yoshiki is potentially saying, where you're a fake, you're a fake, you're a fake. And these are all struggles that Hikaru seemingly is going through in his life, where he's struggling with the fact that he's not the real version. He's struggling with existence because this is all new to him, and he then snaps out of everything and he starts to apologize to Yoshiki, saying, I don't know who I am anymore, I don't know which memories are mine, I don't know which emotions are mine. So yeah, it's almost like this fake Hikaru is developing feelings for Yoshiki, which is just so upsetting because that's not the version that Yoshiki fell in love with. So it really has me wondering what's going to come next with this Hikaru. I'd be very interested to see that. And then he says, even if I could figure out which emotions were mine, I won't be able to stop liking you. And that's when he just stares straight ahead, tears streaming down his face, and all these things come out of his body. And that's when he starts to choke and suffocate Yoshiki, but in an almost intimate way once again because he pins him down on the floor. And Yoshiki seems to be enjoying it. And that's when Yoshiki gets a glimpse into Hikaru holding a head. Oh wait, no, it's not Hikaru actually. I'm just realizing he says Hikaru. Nah, it's not him. So maybe this is Hikaru's father going into the mountain and retrieving a head of someone else. And maybe that's what Hikaru was there to do. He went to the mountain to retrieve a head of his father. So maybe whatever it is in the family, it runs down and they have to go into the mountain, clean up and everything. Basically, yeah, I don't know what it is, but it's very, very curious that they're dropping all these teases without giving us too much right now. Hikaru says sorry and that he doesn't know what he's doing and basically then runs off. And this is when we get the clearest view of this barrier, this line separating them being wider than ever. It's clear, it's completely in view, and they are separated. There's no more crossing the line. They are actually on other ends of this line completely at this point. And Hikaru just says, please don't hate me. I don't want you to hate me. And that's then when we get the next scene with Yoshiki thinking all these things about how that's not the real Hikaru. He cannot replace the real Hikaru. I am a coward for not being able to approach this sooner. And he's just having all these really negative thoughts. This beetle, I don't know what it represents, but yeah, a beetle appears and starts walking over his hand. And maybe it's supposed to be because, you know, nobody likes bugs and like things like that crawling over you. And so Yoshiki's got so much on his mind that he's not even flinching to this bug, and this thing's walking over him and it's not affecting him whatsoever. Back at the school, the two girls are basically being like, yeah, he's been clinging on to you like crazy. He must see you as like his mother, just, you know, making all these jokes. And yeah, it's actually making me realize he has been very childlike. He has acted like a child and he has been very, very clingy with Yoshiki. So the fact that other people have seen it and pointed it out makes it really interesting to me, because what does that mean for their relationship going forward? Will Yoshiki kind of allow that kind of dynamic, or will things change going forward after this episode? And Yoshiki realizes that Hikaru has been very childlike. So Yoshiki rushes out of school and goes to head towards Hikaru as the ending plays over this. Very beautifully well done here with the ending playing. Yoshiki is cycling like crazy, and by the time he gets there, Hikaru is in a bundle, wrapped up, barely even able to see his figure at all. You can just kind of make out that someone is sitting in a pile with a big blanket over them. You know, whenever he approaches the house, he once again says Hikaru with emphasis on the Hikaru, italicized, almost like he's saying it in a completely different way without saying the name normally. And then Hikaru is like, why are you here? I should be apologizing to you, but Yoshiki came here to apologize for acting the way he did. And yeah, Hikaru sticks his hand out and Yoshiki flinches. So there's still this feeling of uncertainty around the two of them. And we see Hikaru has been crying. He is very interesting as a character, because I feel for this being within Hikaru too, because maybe he does just want to live a life. He wants to know what living as a human is like. But at the same time, he's probably killed people, and that's not good. Hikaru's worried about their relationship faltering, and he's saying like, oh, I embarrassed myself. That was really gross, and it grossed you out, didn't it? And Yoshiki's just like, oh, that? Kind of, you know, telling you that's not what he came here for. And so Hikaru is just worried about, do you hate me now? Do you hate me? Because he does not want Yoshiki to hate him. He wants Yoshiki to be dependent on him and everything like that. He wants to be able to depend on Yoshiki as well. And Hikaru quickly throws the cloak off, the blanket off, and gets really close to Yoshiki, very close for comfort, and starts to say, hey, despite everything, I just want to be with you. That's all I want. And this could mean two things. And one being what Yoshiki has always wanted, and two being that he's basically saying, I'm going to be your friend forever. And yeah, per Yoshiki being put in this situation right now, basically like, hey, don't hate me, and I just want to be with you. And yeah, Yoshiki is just experiencing a lot so quickly. So Yoshiki comforts Hikaru, who's crying into his chest, and he comforts him by putting his hand next to his cheek, kind of rubbing it a bit, and then Hikaru starts to seem more like himself. And Yoshiki's even himself being like, I shouldn't be getting this close, I should not be getting this close, but he can't help it. And Yoshiki very hilariously says, you're more of a brat than Hikaru was. And he calls him a lonely little brat. So he does remind me a lot of a lonely little dog who will crave that, you know, feeling of companionship and someone being by their side at all times. And so Yoshiki says, I gotta teach you a few things. And that's probably in relation to the fact that Hikaru does not understand a lot of these random things that people will say. He doesn't understand the complexities of the human language. He just understands what he sees, what he experiences, and so he needs someone to teach him, and that is where Yoshiki will come in. And then we end once again on a shot of the sunflowers dying, which makes it seem like despite all the good that Yoshiki is kind of doing here, he's back to square one. He's kind of killing the plants. He's killing any potential future for himself or any good that could come of this, and instead he's doing bad because, yeah, can we trust this guy? I don't know. But yeah, I think I might wrap this one up. If you guys enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe if you've not done so already. Comment down below letting me know your favorite summer food. And yeah, if I forgot to talk about anything, please let me know in the comments down below, and I will be sure to comment on it within the comments. And yeah, I hope that you guys are having a great day today and that you're able to take it easy. Hit the notification bell so that you can be notified when videos like this go live. Share this with a friend who might enjoy the Summer Hikaru Died episode reaction content. And yeah, I hope that you're able to have a great day today and that you're able to take it easy. I will see you in the next one. Take care.